Wow, do you guys see? Do you guys see this? Today it is. I looked at the weather and it says it's hazy weather, hazy sunshine. I've never heard of that weather. But nonetheless, welcome back. Welcome back to another YAP session. If you don't know this series here, pretty much it's the Pokédex podcast where we yap about certain topics. This week, something exciting was announced. It was actually announced. I'm pretty late on this news. It was announced. I don't know if it was officially announced, but it was mentioned a while back. Let's see if I can find it, actually. I think they have it on YouTube. You guys are about to see my YouTube. You guys are about to see my YouTube algo. What is this, David Dobrik? That's not what I normally watch. Look, if I go Pokemon GO, sorry, this is so slow, but nonetheless, Pokemon GO released a trailer. Oh, yeah, here. Prepare for something big happening in Pokemon GO. Don't know if you guys can hear the audio here, but we have a little trailer, and you see that. So the logo changes there. We see Zacian Zamazenta. We see a cloud forming in the sky. So this is pretty much a trailer, and pretty much what they're saying is, boom, August. So let me pause here. August 23rd and 24th, Go Fest finale is happening. Which, if you don't remember, it wasn't last year we didn't get a Go Fest finale. I think it was the year before that, or 2 years before that. Was it 2 years? Was it 2022 or 2023? I'm not 100% sure, but if you don't remember, there was a Go Fest finale. We have the global Go Fest event, and then the year that we got it, they announced that there was going to be a finale, but they seem to have kept it a surprise this time. So pretty much, we're getting 2 more days of Go Fest, August 23rd and 24th. Now, Go Fest finale last year was a bonus event that they added in, and it was honestly just kind of the same as Go Fest from what I remember. I really forget what happened that year. Was that the Mega? No, that was the Ultra Beast year. That wasn't last year. That was the original Ultra Beast year. I remember because I was on an island in France playing that event. That was a fun event, but nonetheless, what this means, if we actually look at the logo here in more details, you can actually see Eternatus ribcage. You can also see the clouds opening in the sky. I'm pretty sure that's a reference to Eternatus in the main series Pokemon games as well. Did they actually make a blog post about this? Come on. Oh, my Google's not working right now. Maybe they did. Pokemon Go. No, did they make a blog post? Why is it, did I search Northern Pike by accident? Summer concert, look up. No, they didn't make a blog about it yet. So we have no info other than the fact that Eternatus is coming. Now, based on the leaks and everything we've been seeing about Eternatus, Eternatus is looking to be a pretty strong Pokemon. So this was sent to me by our graphic designer here, Dan. Let me see if I can find it. He did send it to me. Oh yeah, he sent me a picture. Eternatus. Where are you? Okay, right here. Let me see if I can get this image for you guys. Okay, I got this image for you guys. I'm going to open it up for anybody who's watching. If you're listening on the platforms, then hopefully you can, I'll just describe what I'm seeing. But nonetheless, Mega Rayquazas with Dragon Tail and Breaking Swipe has a DPS of 25.53, TDO of 965, total damage, overall rating of 63.32. Eternatus with Dragon Tail and Dynamax Cannon, which is going to be its legacy/signature move, is going to be with Dragon Tail Dynamax Cannon, 26 DPS, yes, higher than Mega Rayquaza, and a TDO of 1000. So overall, a better Dragon-type attacker than Mega Rayquaza. Now, it's important to note, as I say this, that this might not be the final statement. I think my graphic designer brought in a good point that they might just be using placeholders. The fact that it's happening in August, and right now it's April 14th, or July 14th, Niantic a lot of the times will, input things as placeholders to update later on and change later on when it's more relevant and is closer to the event. Like, I think there are some Pokemon that technically have like a max level of like 999. Maybe I'm making that up, but like even movesets change. Aegislash, which is getting released soon, had a busted moveset up until release when they actually removed Fury Cutter, so it's not as good for PvP anymore. So Niantic does do this, Scopely does do this a lot. I'm getting better at it though. I feel like I'm getting better at it. They do this a lot where they'll go ahead and update moves. So maybe the Pokemon will get nerfed, but nonetheless, Eternatus is coming to Pokemon Go. So we finally got there. The whole point of today is we're going to be talking about Dynamax. We're going to be reviewing Dynamax. My graphic designer, again, Dan, this whole episode is shout out to Dan. sent me a list of a bunch of, I guess, questions and talking points that he thinks I could cover and give my thoughts on where I think Dynamax is, because it has been released for more than a year. When was Dynamax actually officially released? Do we have a date? Official, I should use ChatGPT for this. Date of Dynamax, or maybe not. I shouldn't support ChatGPT. Do you guys like ChatGPT? I use it a lot, but I feel like I'm starting to not think when you have access to ChatGPT. Okay, wait, Dynamax release in Pokemon Go. Let's see, searching, September 10th, 2024. Is that right? Okay, wait, so it hasn't been a year. It hasn't been a year, but whatever. For some reason, I thought it had been a year. It hasn't been a year, but it's almost a year. We've had it for 8, 9, 10 months. So yeah, today that's what we're talking about. We're going to be reviewing Dynamax, my thoughts on it, the good, the bad, what I think could improve, the overall feature as a whole. And of course, I always urge you guys to jump into the conversation and let me know in the comments what you think of Dynamax, your thoughts on it. And yeah, if you're vibing with it, or if it's another feature that, not another feature, but just a feature you don't care about. It is a hot day here as well, so I'm gonna probably sit in the shade for a lot of this because it's 31 degrees, and again, it's a hazy sunshine. I don't understand what that means, but it's a very peaceful day, and this is why I came to the water, because if I wasn't at the water right now, I'd be like a Torchic. What's another Pokemon that's like crisped up? Colossal? Why did Colossal come to mind? That Pokemon isn't even in Pokemon Go. Okay, nonetheless, let me go find a spot to sit. Is that a deer? Oh no. Oh no, it's like a fake dog to scare the ducks. Okay, let me go find a spot to sit, yeah, we'll get to yapping. Okay, I'm actually just gonna stand here because this is so beautiful today, and I want you guys to be able to view how beautiful it is. I don't know if you can actually see. Can you see that? Look, the dog is right there. It's not a real dog, chat. It's not a real dog. But let's talk about Dynamax. Okay, Dynamax, it's been out for 9, 10 months now. Let's take a review, a full review, and cover all the features and what we think is good or not. So when Dynamax, why do I keep turning around in circles? When Dynamax did get released, the first question is, the only Pokemon that you can Dynamax are Pokemon you have defeated and caught in max battles. Why is this a good idea, but also frustrating? I don't know if these are exactly questions. Maybe I shouldn't read them word for word, verbatim, but yes, that is true. So when Dynamax did get released, I was actually excited for this. The fact that everybody was on an even playing field. So to get a Dynamax Pokemon to battle in a Dynamax battle, you needed to, I think our first Dynamax Pokemon was from a research you get for free, right? And then you use that and you battle another Dynamax and you slowly build your collection. If you think about it, it's kind of just how any Pokemon game starts. Like you get your starter and then you get, you battle a Starly in, let's say, Gen 4, you catch it, and then you continue and you build your team. So Dynamax was the same thing there, but again, it was being released like 9 years after the feature, or after Pokemon Go was originally dropped. So obviously a lot of people had the feedback or the frustration with the fact that they have been building Pokemon, their collection, for 9 years, and they couldn't use these Pokemon that they've created a relationship with, or powered up, invested all these resources into this new feature. It's a trade-off. In my opinion, it's a trade-off. And I will say this right now, like, I was really hyped for this, that it's a mini game, and I thought it was actually going to be really good to pull people in, but I think it actually did more of a push away. And let me explain this. Let me explain why. The issue I had with this whole feature was the way they released it made it so that the Pokemon you caught was instantly irrelevant. And I think that's where the issue comes in. Like, when Dynamax was released, you could catch your Dynamax, Charmander, Squirtle, Bulbasaur, I think, right? And then like 3 months later, Gigantamax, Charizard, Blastoise, and Venusaur came to the game. So instantly, if you had grinded to get a good or even powered up resources into these Pokemon, they were instantly irrelevant. And that's where the issue comes in with when you're releasing a feature like this way far into a game, when it's like a fully developed game, like it's been out for 9 months, everybody has maxed out Mewtwo's, all this stuff. You get no time to like slowly build that stuff and make things irrelevant over time, because it's kind of all like once, and you already know that these Pokemon are just going to be outdated. When Pokemon Go first came out, like, people were not like, I'm not going to power up Dragonite or Mewtwo because I know that it's going to become outclassed in the future. I guess Mewtwo never really got outclassed, but Dragonite, for example, like, because they knew that like the game was still being released, so things were being released. But the fact that Dynamax is already a feature that came to the game, but instantly it's going to be topped by Gigantamax, Charizard, and all this stuff, it just makes it feel really bad to actually invest resources into this new game mode. And honestly makes me not want to play it, because the fact that if I play Gigantamax right now, like right now it's not as bad because right now we have a bunch of the top Gigantamaxes and they'll never kind of be outclassed. But it's like, for me, why would I go and, I don't know, for now, like even Lapras Max Battle Day is happening this weekend. For me, it's like, why would I go do this map battle day when another Pokemon's going to come out? Or for example, right now I think Inteleon is the best water type G-Max Pokemon. So it's like when G-Max Inteleon will come out and it'll be able to be shiny at some point. You know what I mean? So I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to say, is that the fact that like you don't really want to invest in the feature now because you know that it'd be a lot more efficient. This is just how my brain works, but it'd be a lot more efficient for me to get into Gigantamax once it's been out for 2-3 years and all the Gigantamax Pokemon have been released, and I can pick and I can see how I guess you can say you can see where the meta settles. The fact is, when Gigantamax was being released, no one saw where the meta settled. And again, that's a good thing. It's also a bad thing. I'm curious if you guys played it or not as much, but I thought it was really going to be motivating. The fact that Gigantamax was a new feature, no one had any Pokemon in it. But yeah, I don't think it translated personally as much, because again, it made me think, when I'm doing a Dynamax Charmander, why would I waste Max Particles on this when Gigantamax is going to come out? And I guess Max Particles are free, but like, and I still use my free particles, but it's like, why would I spend even more money? Like, why would I really invest? Anyway, number 2, the Max Particles for entering Max Battles and powering and unlocking Max moves. Okay, I guess it's just a question. What are your thoughts on this? Okay, in my opinion, this is the one thing I wanted to make clear during this YAP session, which, am I recording? I am recording. The one thing I wanted to make clear is the fact that I actually do like Dynamax more. I don't know if it's more than raids, but I do really like Dynamax for the fact that you get so much more out of your Max Particles and you can manipulate them so much better. Raids are great, but you get a raid pass, you use a raid pass. And once the raid has started, the raid pass has been used. So if you fail that raid, you lose that raid pass. Max Particles are way better, and they should be implementing features they have with Max Particles into raid passes. Max Particles, first of all, are staged per level of boss. For example, when you do a 1-star max battle, you only have to use, I think it's 100, or is it, no, it's 250. 250 Max Particles. A 3-star is 400. A 5-star is 800, such as G-Max is 800. I don't think there's anything more than that. So your Max Particles in the day, you can totally collect 800. So every day you can do 1 Gigantamax or Dynamax Legendary. You can do the highest level. Same thing with raids. Once a day you can do 1 raid. However, once you go to the lower tiers, you can do 2 tier 2s, tier 3s Dynamax battles, because they're 400 each, and you can collect 800 Max Particles in the day. But in terms of raids, you still only get 1 raid a day. So using a raid pass on like a 1-star raid boss, you don't feel like you're getting value out of it. So that's why I love Max Particles, because you can manipulate them and they scale with the difficulty. I guess that's the best way to put it. But raid passes suck because they don't scale with the difficulty. Like, it costs the same amount of money to do a 1-star versus a 5-star raid battle. But Dynamax, I think they implemented it well, where free-to-play players can do 3 Dynamax bosses a day. And I think this makes it a really good, I guess, you know, they had to do this for the feature to get people like going, because if people only did 1-star Dynamax battle a day, they would never build a Dynamax team. But I do think it's just an amazing feature, because again, like, if I don't have people to do Gigantamax with, it's fine. I can still use those Max Particles and get features out of them. Also, on top of that, you get like almost the same, maybe even more rewards for doing a Dynamax tier 1 battle than a raid tier 1 battle. So for free-to-play players, and I've said this 1,000 times, like, I think Dynamax is an amazing thing for free-to-play players, because it is a feature where you can get Stardust XP and catch Pokemon with high IV floors for completely free. Raiding, not good for free-to-play. Dynamax, in my opinion, is good for free-to-play. On top of that, if you collect your Max Particles in the correct method, like, you can get up to 1,000, is it 1,020 Max Particles in a day? You can get a lot of Max Particles in a day. Now, on the topic of unlocking and powering up Max moves, I honestly have never really looked into that too much. I just kind of spend whatever, but I guess this is a perfect chance for us to do it. So let's jump in here and take a look, and you'll get my live reaction. I think I just don't check. But But nonetheless, to power up max moves, let's see how much it is. So 1400 max particles, that's about 2 days to power up max knuckle to max. 1800 to unlock. So I guess it's like 400 to unlock and then 1400 to power up, 700 per level. Look, I think it's fine, to be honest. Again, at the end of the day, Dynamax is new, and you're not going to be powering up. How is there mosquitoes here? How did they follow me from one episode to another? You're not really going to be, how do you say, like, powering up and unlocking max moves on that many Dynamax Pokemon. Because, again, going back to raids, you have a battle party of six. But Dynamax, you only have a party of 3, which I think is an amazing thing for the fact of, like, you don't need to invest as much into it. You only need 3 Pokemon, right? And obviously, like, you're gonna need a different type of attacker for each type. But, like, theoretically, if you think about it, there's 18 types in Pokemon Go. To have the best Dynamax team, you would have 18 different powered up Gigantamax Pokemon, and you would have of one of each type, I guess 17 because you wouldn't do normal. And then you would also have 2 Blissies probably at level 50 because those are the best overall gym defenders. And with that means that you could take on any you could have the best possible team for any Dynamax/Gigantamax boss with a total of 19 Pokemon powered up. That is insane because if you look at raids, 19 Pokemon is 3 teams plus 1, right? Teams of 6 fully powered up powered up level 50 Pokemon. Like, that is expensive to do for all 17 types that you would be using in raids. Dynamax, again, you need 1 attacker, and then 2 of them are defenders, which can just be Blissies, because Blissey is just such a good good Dynamax defender. I guess, like, if you're going up against the G-Max Machamp, it wouldn't be as good, so maybe throw in an extra Pokemon. But, like, you get what I'm saying? Overall, the fact is it's a lot less resource intensive to get in there. Now, obviously, it costs candy and Stardust to power up these max moves and all that stuff. But personally, again, I don't think I have an issue with it. It would be nice, I guess, if lucky Pokemon were like half the dust to power up to unlock their max moves. And maybe they are. Honestly, do I even have a lucky Dynamax? I don't think I have one to check. Someone can let me know, but I'm pretty sure that's not a thing. But, like, that would be nice, obviously, but, you know, I doubt they would end up doing that. Maybe. But overall, I don't think there's a problem with max moves. And overall, max particles and that whole feature, I think, is great. I don't think there's any issues with it. I guess the one thing I could put is, like, somebody, I was talking to Coop, our community ambassador out in Canada, and she was saying that they have trouble with Dynamax and Gigantamax meetups at their community ambassador meetups because there's no power spots in parks. And she was explaining, and I'm not exactly sure how factual it is, but power spots will go off of, like, local businesses in, like, I think maybe it's based off Google Maps, local businesses. And there's not a lot of local businesses in the park. I don't know if the geese here are running a business or something, but not a lot of local businesses. So you find in parks, there's actually less power spots, you know, which sucks. So it doesn't make it good for meetups. So I guess if they could revamp, like, where power spots are so people could have more access, would be great. But again, that just goes into an issue we always have in Pokemon Go, where gyms and Pokestops are not everywhere, and there's certain areas that are better, and there's certain areas that are worse to play Pokemon Go. So nonetheless, I like max particles, no problem with that. I'm kind of heating up here, so I'm gonna go sit down, and we're gonna continue to talk about this subject with question number 3. Isn't this fun, by the way? I don't know if you can see anybody who's watching. Out in the distance there, they have... I'm gonna walk a little further out. The people are doing sailing camp. This actually used to be me. I used to, if you don't remember back when I was a child. No, I used to actually do a sailing camp. This is the one for Nepean Sailing Club, which is right there, but I used to go to Britannia Sailing Club, which is over there. But yeah, it was fun. Sailing is an interesting thing. Interesting sport. It can get aggressive. I'm not gonna lie, it can get aggressive. But overall, let's move on. Now, I did forget to completely mention something, why I actually came to this park today. It's not to watch the sailing kids. It's actually to show off. I've never seen this before. You're getting a live reaction. Wow, okay, that looks amazing. This is a campsite. If you don't know, Niantic actually increased the amount of Pokestops and gyms at certain community ambassador-based locations. I think there's a total of 1,000 community ambassadors in the world, and 100 of them got early access to campsites. And Ottawa, Ellie, who runs the Ottawa group chat, or one of the auto, because we have a couple community ambassadors, was able to get us a campsite. So as you can see, this is actually what it looks like. If you're wondering, you might have one, but it actually looks insane. So campsites are pretty much spots where Niantic adds gyms and adds Pokestops for community ambassador, for established communities that have gotten a lot of check-ins, who have gotten a lot of activity. It's not just like they don't just randomly put these out there. You have to have a community, you have to have applied for a community ambassador position, you have to have built up your community, and so people are actually coming here and playing. But wow, this looks amazing, because I've played at Andrew Hayden Park. I'm gonna send my mom screenshots because she's gonna like this. We've played at Andrew Hayden Park. This was like our original stomping grounds, and they went ahead and yeah, so I think there's a total of 10 gyms here and a bunch of extra Pokestops. This is amazing, actually. This might be like an amazing grinding loop for like Spotlight Hour and Raid Hour. So that is really cool. I just wanted to come here to check it out. I might come to a community ambassador meetup as well soon. But yeah, wow, really cool, really cool. And that's what it looks like. So hopefully there's more campsites coming to other community ambassadors. I know they're working hard on it, but again, there's 1,000 communities out there. The amount of behind the scenes stuff they have to do to get these set up, probably a decent amount. So wow, this is actually, I can't get over this, but I might play a little bit here. This is great. This is almost like a GoFest park. Looks like a GoFest park. But okay, let's move on to question number 3. Now, the Disaster first max battle weekend, what are your thoughts on that? Okay, I remember that. I actually didn't play that weekend. I forget why. I really wanted to. But if you don't remember, when Gigantamax was first released, Charizard, Blastoise, and Venusaur were released. I believe it was like November or October. It was pretty quick after D-Max was released, but it was I don't want to say a disaster. Maybe that's not the word to use, but it was, I guess, unexpected. I guess you could say disaster. Pretty much what happened is people were going into these battles, and granted, most people weren't ready. It was similar to raids where people were bringing in Wooloos, Squavits, Charmanders that were not powered up and leveled up. And I've seen this in raids as well. Like, people will come to raid battles during like a Kyogre raid, and they'll be bringing like a non-powered up like Manectric, and it's just not very strong, and it's just not going to do what you need to do. But the same thing happened with Gigantamax. We had Charizard, Blastoise, and Venusaur, where people, I actually did play this event. I actually remember now. I played this event. We tried to do a couple, and we couldn't beat them out in Renfrew because we only had like 6 to 7 to 8 people, I think. Yeah, I remember. That was not good. But people were frustrated because the fact that we didn't know it was going to be as hard as it was going to be. And I think Niantic did give a fair warning, being like, these are hard bosses. But it pretty much meant that most people who were excited to get these new Gigantamax Pokemon, get them in their decks, couldn't, because most communities actually couldn't even take these down. People were going out to play this event with their communities of 8, 10, 12, and they weren't able to take them down. The only communities that were able to take them down were like huge groups of 20 to 40 people, I believe. Like, they were hard, especially like Blastoise. I remember being really, really tough to take down. It's always the water types. I don't know why. The water types are just annoying to take down. So yeah, it led to a lot of community feedback, which I think was actually a good thing, because it did lead to Niantic going ahead and saying, hey, we're going to make Gigantamax Gengar easier. They also did make a couple other updates, I believe, during that time. I forget exactly what it was, but overall, it did lead to Niantic making some changes to Gmax because of all the feedback that they got from other people saying, this is maybe too hard. The second thing, and honestly, again, this is why I think it's a disaster weekend, but also like not the worst. Maybe you can point at Niantic's fingers, point at Niantic for being like, you didn't give the people enough chance to get these Pokemon ready. Like, maybe they should have given everybody like a free level 40 Dynamax Pokemon, like so everyone could at least have one Pokemon. But also, part of the issue was that no one knew how this feature worked. No one knew the top meta strategies. If you look at rating nowadays, rating is not a problem because everybody knows the top counters. We know the strongest meta-relevant Pokemon. And yes, new players, people who are not as into it might not know, but like, you know, people know that Rayquaza, you know, you use a Rayquaza in a Dragon Raid and it's going to do good damage. Dynamax, on the other hand, was not the same. People didn't know how the feature worked. It was a very new feature. We didn't know about the 2 tanks and 1 attacker role. You didn't know you could switch while you're Dynamaxing into a different Pokemon and then switch back after the Dynamax stage. We didn't know what fast moves to have, because if you don't know, there's certain fast moves in Dynamax battles that will build the max meter quicker, which means you can Dynamax quicker, which means you can do more damage quicker. So all of this wasn't known. So again, this is like, I think this is just maybe almost like a natural progression to the game. Like if you think about the first raid ever, I keep thinking, was it Articuno or Lugia? I think it was Lugia. I wasn't there. I don't know how it was like, but there's no way everybody like was just like, oh, this is easy. We're not going to struggle with Lugia at all. We're going to take it down. And maybe it went well because people had so much time. And I guess gym battles are kind of similar to raid battles. They kind of have like a similar vibe. But overall, when a new feature gets released, there's bound to be failures. There's bound to be learnings. And I think that's what that Gigantamax weekend taught us. Not only did it teach us that, okay, maybe these things are way too hard and Niantic should nerf them, which they did. They nerfed them. But also, maybe we should learn the best strategies. Maybe we shouldn't bring Wooloo to a Dynamax battle. It was a bad release, but it got us to where we are. And I don't think now, again, I think there is still the issue with Dynamax and Gigantamax. There is still an issue in which rural players, it's really hard to take on these especially the G-Max bosses. I think the legendaries not as much because it's only groups of 4, you know, so they have much lower HP and like it's kind of scaled for 4 people. But Gigantamax is scaled for like 20, 40 people, however much. So smaller groups makes it very, very hard to take on these Gigantamax bosses and do it successfully. Now again, I'm not saying that it's not possible. I think you could still, like I did Gigantamax Toxtricity with 4 people. Granted, it has a 4 times weakness. But even like, I don't know, Lapras is coming up. If you have a smaller community of 10 people, as long as people follow the correct strategies, you can still beat it. Like, I think everybody gets a free Max Mushroom trial. So you could use a Max Mushroom to double your damage. Maybe you have Zacian with its Adventure Effect, Behemoth Blade to do more damage. Weather Boost, Friendship Boost. You can power up the correct attackers. You can use the correct tanks, the correct strategies. Like, you can do these things with smaller groups. Some of them maybe not as much. Like, again, Lapras might not be the best example, but some of the weaker ones. But again, it's more the fact that that means it doesn't make it as accessible to everybody, which is the main caveat here. Raids, you can do raids with small groups. You can do raids, like you can solo or 2-man raids. But the good thing is, like, even if only 5 people show up to your meetup and nobody has good counters, you generally can still take down some raids. Gigantamax, on the other hand, for small communities, they need to be the most organized. They need to have it on the ball. They need to know what they're doing, what Pokemon they have powered up, when they're switching, you know, who's a tank, who's a healer, who's an attacker, like the roles using Max Mushroom. Like, you need to know the full spectrum of Gigantamax to be able to take it down successfully as a small community. Now, bigger communities, it's less of an issue. You know, battling has never been as much of an issue with bigger communities, but that's the difference between raiding and Gigantamax, is the fact that it is so much more strategy oriented than raiding, in which it's not just tap, 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 it's battle, battle, battle. And I think this is a good thing. I think this is great. I think it's fun that there's strategy involved. Pokemon Go is one of the easiest games in the world, so it's nice that they're adding, I don't want to say some sort of skill expression, but Gigantamax is the closest thing in PvE I think we have to skill expression, with dodging too. So I think it's a good thing they're adding it. But obviously I see how it wouldn't hit the mass communities because again, like the more friction you have in a feature like this, where it's harder to do, or it's more difficult to do, the more people you're gonna have being like, it's just not worth it, you know? And that's just natural part of it. Again, I think it's cool. I think it's a good thing. Granted, I think there's also still plenty of days where I'm sitting at home and I'm like, I could go out and do that Gigantamax or that Dynamax legendary weekend, but it's gonna take too much planning. I have to organize, I have to power up the D-Max Mons, I have to give them the right moves, versus raiding where it's just like, okay, I just slap whatever Pokemon I have powered up and get it done. It puts in a lot more effort, but it's nice because it does lead to a lot more rewards, and I do think that the game shouldn't be super, super easy. It's annoying, but again, I think that if the game was too easy, people would just quit, and I think a lot of people do quit. Like, a lot of people in raiding probably go to 1 or 2 raid hours, and then they're like, this is not fun at all. I'm not having fun doing this. I'm just standing in a circle tapping. And the reason they stay is maybe because of the community members, and that's why they stay. But Gigantamax, on the other hand, people probably go, and once they figure out the strategy, they have fun because they're like, oh, okay, oh my God, this is gonna be a close battle and all that stuff. I guess that's kind of just my take on the first G-Max weekend. But let's move on to the next question. The fast pace of the new Max content to get people interested in Max battles, get multiple new G-Max Mons and D-Max legendaries. Why wait for D-Max legendaries in particular? Okay, got it. So I guess they're trying to say, like, this question from Dan is trying to ask me, like, what I think about overall my thoughts on how quickly they've released it. Because it is true, they have released Dynamax stuff very, very quickly, if you think about it. We had the first G-Maxes, and then we had, was Lapras the second? No, Lapras wasn't the second. Gengar was the second. And then overall, we've had, and then we had Toxtricity. We have like 5, 6, 7 G-Maxes maybe in the game now. So there's actually a good amount of G-Maxes, maybe like 8, 9. We have the other starters too. And then also Dynamax Legendary started getting released. So overall, I don't think there's really any issues with this, and I think this is the best way to release it because, again, they're kind of catching up on 9 years of content into Pokemon Go. They're kind of like trying to play catch up and get all these things released so that the Dynamax meta is stabilized, and then they can kind of just slowly rotate things over and over again. So I don't think there's any problem with the fast pace of Dynamax content. I think it makes it fun. People will argue about event overload, and I've had a whole YAP session about this. And again, I just keep going back to the fact that like event overload is not really a real thing, because if you don't want to play the event, just don't play it. And yes, it creates FOMO, but FOMO, I always say, like, people like get mad at Niantic for FOMO, and yes, it's frustrating, like they're using these tactics. Granted, these tactics have been used in marketing since the beginning of time. So anyway, FOMO is more of a interpersonal thing, I think, in my opinion. Like, if I get FOMO, it's because like I'm putting value in the wrong things in my life, where it's like I need this digital thing, when it's really like all created inside you. You know what I mean? Like, because if you think about it, at the end of the day, when Niantic is using FOMO to advertise Gigantamax Max Battle Lapras Day, you're the one who feels like you actually have to play this event or you're missing out on something. FOMO, I think, is a emotion that is kind of created and controlled inside of you because you put importance. It's what Nick said, but you put importance to what's important in your life. So if it's important for you, you'll go play it and you'll go do it, and you won't feel FOMO because FOMO wouldn't be what's driving you. What's driving you is what is important in your life. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't let FOMO drive your decisions. Let what is important in your life and what you want to put time into, let that drive your decisions. Don't let FOMO drive your decisions. And granted, I know it's annoying, and I fall for the marketing tactics. Everybody falls for the marketing tactics when they're like, only for one weekend only, you can only get this Pokemon now, and this is a new strong Pokemon, and you're gonna want it, and look at all these bonuses going down, and if you don't play now, you won't get out of it. Like, but again, what is important to you? Is that an important part of your life? Then you were gonna play it anyway, and FOMO wasn't the reason you were gonna play it. So anyway, but going back to it, back to what I was saying, event overload, in my opinion, is not really a real thing, because if an event is not important to you, or you don't want to play it, just don't play it. You don't have to play every event. I don't think Niantic maybe they want everybody to play every event, but I don't think they expect everybody to play every event. So if there's an event you don't want to play, don't play it. It's not the end of the world. It's gonna come back, and if it doesn't, it's a digital thing. It's meant for fun. So I don't think there's such thing really as event overload. Maybe there's like certain exceptions. I don't really like saying blanket statements like that, because there's always gonna be an exception and a factor. But that's my take on that. Going back to G-Max, going back to Dynamax, I don't think there's a problem with them releasing it. I think this is the best way for them to release it, is just get, if every month is getting a Max Battle Day, I'm fine with that. If it's getting a Max Battle Weekend, I'm fine with that. Talking about Max Battle Weekends and Legendaries, Dan brings up a really good point. But it's a really good way to get Legendaries as a free-to-play player. I keep going back to this, but Dynamax Legendary battles cost 800 max particles. So theoretically, again, it's like using one raid pass. However, you only need like 4 people to take on a Dynamax Legendary. Sometimes you can do it with 3 or 2, which if you look at the average that you need for a raid, like, again, it depends on how good your battle strategy and party is. You don't need as many, not as many. You need more people on average, I would say. Like, you would probably need like 5 people on average that are like average-ish players to take on a Dynamax, or to take on a Legendary from a raid, versus Dynamax, on average, I think you need less people. On top of that, they have these 2-day Dynamax Legendary weekends where you can go, and I forget how many max particles you get, but you could probably get 6 to 7 of those Legendaries. And looking at the raid days we've been getting, we have not gotten a Legendary raid day in a long, long time. So Dynamax battle weekends are some of the best way for free-to-play players to get legendary Pokemon and multiple legendary Pokemon, shiny legendary Pokemon, because the max particles, they're giving out more for free, so you can do more battles for free, and they're more accessible. You need less people to take them on. So I love those weekends. I think they're great, especially for free-to-play players. Me personally, not as hyped for it because, again, like Latios, Latias, I have plenty of those. And are those good Dynamax attackers? No, but again, you forget the fact that like these Dynamax Pokemon you can catch, you can use them for other features. Like if you play Dynamax, Latios, and Latias weekend, you can get yourself Mega Latios and Mega Latias if you have energy for them. You know what I mean? Like if you get a Hundo Latias, you can Mega Evolve that, you know, and it's a Dynamax. It's a double-double. So it's really nice to feature that Dynamax Pokemon kind of play this double role where they're used in Dynamax, but then they're also able to be used in PvP, in raids, megas, you know, all that stuff. So it kind of makes you feel like when you're doing these battles, you're getting more out of it, and you're getting more out of it for less. So overall, I love Dynamax Legendary Weekends. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I also think that they're a great event to sneak into other events because they're a weekend event where they're more available in the Dynamax power spots, but you can throw in a community day. I wouldn't mind having a community day and then, oh, there's a Dynamax Latios for me to go after. I wouldn't mind having that at all. So I think it's a really good event where you can overlap. Maybe it wouldn't be as good if you have like a raiding event, like a raid day and a Dynamax Legendary Weekend wouldn't be as good together, but catching event, research day, all that stuff, I think would be great to overlap with those types of events. So no problems with that. Again, for me, I'm a strong believer. The more content you have, the more available for everybody. You can make everybody happy at the end of the day. But the best way to get people as close to being as everybody happy is to kind of put out the most amount of things. Because if you think about it, some players love Dynamax and that's all they do. Some players don't. If they don't release the Dynamax stuff, the players that do love Dynamax will be mad. But if they do release the stuff, the events that Dynamax people love, then Dynamax players will be happy, and then players who don't like Dynamax will just not play those events. I guess it all goes back to this, but as long as it's in addition to, not instead of, I love using that sentence, but as long as they're adding Dynamax events on top of the other events they're doing, not replacing other events with Dynamax events, I think Bob is our uncle. I need to go sit down. I don't need to go sit down, but we're gonna change location here for the final 2 points. Okay, I wanna sit here, but also there's bird poo everywhere. I guess there isn't really any here. Oh, there's a spiky plant though. Move, spiky plant. Move. Where do I sit? I guess I'll sit kind of over here. Or I'll crouch. Whatever. It's the geese. The Canadian geese are taking over. Okay, let's talk about it. Pokemon Go, knowing where people were not doing max battles enough, so they broke their philosophy over the exclusive in-person content that made max battles remote raidable. Now, first of all, I'm getting anxiety, the fact that I might not be recording. The amount of times, people always ask me why I keep coming back and checking if I'm recording, because there's been too many times where I've gone ahead and started recording, and then I wasn't recording. But let me just sit here. Okay. Now this was something that was very interesting. And I think this was the best solution to their issue that we talked about earlier, in which the fact that rural players, they need to know the strategies to take on Gigantamax battles efficiently. And on average, most people don't want to put in the effort and they don't want to do it, and it's going to push players away. So what Niantic did is they said, hey, we're going to add remote raids to Dynamax, or to Gigantamax and Dynamax battles. Personally, I'm a fan. I think that it's a great thing to have more accessibility in Pokemon Go. Again, I have some reasons on why I don't like this, but I'm a believer. You saw my YAP session where I gave you guys my opinion on it, but I'm a believer that more things should be remote raidable, and this was a good thing. I do think that obviously it made Gigantamax Pokemon a little less rare, and you know, stuff like that. And also, I think this comes from like a perspective of a person who lives in a city who has access to these features, but almost like, I want to be vulnerable here, but almost like how do we say this? But like, it's kind of special having a feature that is only remote, only impersonable. It makes those Pokemon feel more special. Like I remember when I got like Gigantamax Gengar in Pokemon GO, I was like, this is a really cool Pokemon to have because not everybody has Gigantamax Gengar or has the ability to get this Pokemon. Not anyone can just remote raid in and get a shiny Gmax Gengar. So I thought it was kind of cool in that aspect, but I also understand fully that first of all, the more people that play this game, the better. The more people who have fun playing this game, the better. And that not everybody has the privilege I have to live in a city, to have access to communities that are big. And like, you know, we can go back to the debate of should people build their own communities and put in the effort to create and to get these Pokemon for themselves? Maybe yes, but that's a completely different argument. And overall, I do think it was a good thing. Now, where I think the issue goes is on the front of Niantic, and we've seen this before, where it's like, it's Scopely now. It's Scopely now, right? And was this before or after the Scopely acquisition? I forget. But Niantic is like, oh, we want people in person. We want people meeting. This is why Dynamax, when it was first released, was in person only. Because they wanted people meeting. They wanted communities. They thought this was going to be a good way to revitalize communities. And then they go and they just completely switch their philosophy. And they say, oh, no, actually, we're going to go ahead and give 10 remotes a day per person. Now, there could be many reasons on why they did this. A lot of people are pointing to the reason of money, that, you know, they were losing money, they weren't making as much money as they used to, so they were like, okay, whatever, we're gonna be money hungry and we're gonna go ahead and allow people to do remote raids. Some people say that it's because of the community. People were, you know, literally since remote raids were nerfed, every single tweet, maybe it stops as much now, but most tweets that Pokemon GO makes is bring back remote raids, unnerf remote raids, make remote raids cheaper. Like, those comments are still out there. So maybe those comments finally got to them and Niantic was like, you know what, we're gonna boost the amount of remote raids people can do, and we're also gonna make more things remote raidable, i.e. Dynamax, Gigantamax. But at the end of the day, we don't know. We don't know why they did it. We don't know why they did it. I think it's a good thing that they did it. My number one pet peeve with it is the fact that to do a remote Gigantamax battle, you need a remote raid pass and max particles. It is very expensive to do. And maybe that's part of the game design. Niantic wants it to be hard and expensive, and not everybody can just do a bunch of Gigantamax battles for completely free. But it is like triple price because you need to get a remote raid, which those are already, I think, like $2.50 American to buy a single one. I guess if you buy 3, it's a bit cheaper. Then you need max particles, which you can get for free, yes, but let's say you want to do a couple of them. Max particle packs, I forget how much they are, but they only give you 800 max particles, and they can get expensive. So overall, like, think about paying like double price for a remote raid is the price you're paying for a Gmax battle. So overall, it's a bad thing. But this does bring me to the point of something that I never really talked about, but Gigantamax and Dynamax rewards are so good. They're so good. You can get yourself 25,000 XP and 25,000 Stardust for doing a Gigantamax battle. Dynamax battles is less, but still, for the amount of max particles you use on a 1-star max boss, you get like 2,500 XP. It is huge. And this is, again, going back to why I think it is an amazing feature, because of the fact that the rewards are unlike anything we've ever seen before. So yes, like I mentioned before, people are spending more money and they have to put in more effort to figure out the way to do it, but they're being compensated. When we did 100 Gmax battles, I got 100 Gmax Toxtricities in a day, to be specific. I got 1 million Stardust in that day, I'm pretty sure. And I was doubling rewards and I was using star pieces. But a lot of top players, for example, were talking that Gmax is actually the new best way to grind resources in Pokemon GO. During a Gmax weekend, or whenever Gmax is available, you can do 1 million Stardust and like 10 million XP or even more during a Gmax max battle weekend, no problem. Maybe not no problem, but like with enough people. The problem, again, is in the planning. It's in the effort. It's kind of a feature where if you put in the effort, you will be rewarded. But if you don't put in the effort, it's just not even worth doing. You know what I mean? Like, you're either going to completely lose or you're gonna take huge advantage, I guess you could say, of this feature. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. Remote raid accessibility, again, flat out, I think it's a good thing. I don't like how Niantic are switching up their motto, but again, maybe we can give them the benefit of the doubt because it's Scopely now. But that brings us to the final point here, where we can talk about should they revamp the feature? Should it be changed? With the 1 year anniversary coming up, what needs to be changed from Gmax? Now, personally, I think Gmax battles could be easier. They're still really, really difficult. Even with planned group teams, like, it is hard to take down a Gmax boss. So a little bit, again, of a difficulty nerf until we find that sweet spot where most people aren't failing, I think would be great. Because again, the only time I've ever done Gmax is when there is a lot of people around, and even then, it is difficult, and even then people fail. I think that could definitely be changed. I think the second thing that could be changed, and people are probably screaming at the screen about this, is adding Max Soup. Again, this goes back, let me explain what Max Soup is. Max Soup in the main series games, from what I remember, is an item that will take your Dynamax Pokemon and allow them to Gigantamax. So say you have a Dynamax Charizard, you could turn that into a Gigantamax Charizard by feeding it Max Soup. I think this would be a great feature. It's been discussed in the community. It might even be discussed by the Pokemon GO team. But I think this would be amazing because you could take your Dynamax Pokemon that you've already invested Stardust into. And again, it goes back to what I was talking about at the start of this video, the issue in which there's no point in doing a Dynamax Charmander battle because Gigantamax Charmander is just better to have. You know what I mean? So I think Max Soup would be a good solution to this issue, and I do hope that Niantic decide to add it. If they do add it, they'll probably add it similar to the bottle caps and the Lucky Trinket, in which it's some premium reward available at the end of a reward track. Hopefully, again, available for free in some way. But I do think that would be a good feature. A lot of people have also talked about Dynamax Candy. Now, I don't think this is a thing in the main series games. Maybe it is. But overall, just the idea of an item where you could take your pre-existing Pokemon and allow them to Dynamax. So this is a very interesting concept. Personally, I'm a fan, but also I just know it's never going to happen, and let me explain why. I'm a fan because, again, this stops the issue we had before, in which some Pokemon that you spend, all your Stardust on powering up, they can't be used in Dynamax battles, so you kind of fall flat on your face. However, so if they add it, it would be great, right? Because you could take, let's say you already have a level 50 Charizard, and you could give it Dynamax Candy to allow it to Dynamax, and then you could even give it Dynamax Soup after to turn it into a Gigantamax. Would be great. And also, by the way, this feature would probably only be available for Pokemon that have been released Dynamax, so you couldn't, I couldn't give Dynamax Candy to Rayquaza, because Rayquaza doesn't have a Dynamax form, I guess you could say. But anyway, the reason I don't think Niantic is ever going to do this is because it would make it so, no one would really ever have to do Dynamax battles, and there would actually really be no point. I guess the only point of doing Dynamax battles would be the rewards, which would be a good point. But let's say Dynamax Rayquaza comes out. No one's going to do a Dynamax Rayquaza battle. Some people will, they want the shiny, but anybody who, I guess, is a veteran player who's been playing for a long time will just give Dynamax Candy to their existing 100% IV Rayquaza, and then that Rayquaza would be able to Dynamax. You know what I mean? So I don't really think, it would completely kill the point of this, and I don't think they'll ever do this. Dynamax Soup, on the other hand, I think is a thing we could end up seeing. Maybe they'll only release it once all the Gigantamaxes are out, or maybe they'll release it, but then you can only do it once that Gigantamax gets released, obviously. Yeah, overall, that's kind of my thoughts on that. I do think that would be a really, really cool update. Other things I think could be updated. I think there should be an unlimited cap on the walking particles you get every single day. Because, yes, you can only claim 800 max particles a day. But wouldn't it be nice, and I think this would be also very incentivizing for Niantic, or for Scopely, to allow us to walk as many kilometers as we want, but every 2 kilometers, we get 300 max particles. So again, for example, if you want to do one extra legendary battle, you have to walk an extra 6 kilometers, an extra Dynamax legendary. Again, that's just an idea of mine. I think it would be great. I have no problem with capping the max particles, because again, the free raid pass is capped, so I think it's fine to cap it. But I do think, again, and this could be implemented in raiding as well. Let's say you could walk a certain amount of distance, 5-10 kilometers, and you get a free raid pass. I think these walking updates would be really, really good and really, really incentivizing to people if they really want to grind Dynamax and do a bunch of extra Dynamax battles. So that's my thoughts on that. I also think animations could be sped up. I always think animations could be sped up. End of Dynamax battle, the Dynamax battle itself, the Dynamaxing animation. The Dynamax animation is slow, especially if you're doing a 1 or a 3-star max battle and you're just going to beat it. why can't we skip the Dynamax animation? I guess, like, you know, it's a thing of syncing, like everybody needs to be synced and Dynamaxing at the same time. But, you know, like, I don't know. I think animations overall could be sped up. Finally, we talked about this in France during my PvP episode. Should Dynamax come to PvP? Should Gigantamax come to PvP? It's really hard to say. Personally, I think it could be a cool battle mode where you can do a one-on-one Dynamax, but also I really don't think I see a need for it. I think Pokemon GO PvP is unique in its own way, and yes, it's got its bugs, and yes, it's got its issues, but there's no other PvP mechanic in the Pokemon universe that is similar to Pokemon GO PvP, so I think it's special in that way. And if they were to just introduce turn-based Dynamax battles, you're just copying the main series games. You're just slapping and battling in the main series games into Pokemon GO. And again, maybe that's cool. You know, at the end of the day, that would be a nice thing to have in the game. And if they do add it, I'm not going to complain, but I don't think it's necessary by any means. But if you guys have ideas on it, if you guys think it should be dropping, let me know because, you know, it could be cool. So overall, I do think it's a good feature. Overall, I do think that Dynamax, you know, a year in has been staying pretty strong. And yes, updates could be made. Yes, things could be changed. But I think things can always be changed, right, at the end of the day. Also, they did mention that the Mega system was revamped. I think it was like a year or two after it was released. I forget how long, but it got a complete overhaul. We got Mega Candy. Like, Mega Pokemon became actually relevant and actually strong. So we could very much see a complete revamp of the Dynamax feature, making it way, way better with ideas that I haven't even thought of. They could be working on that right now. Who knows? Because again, don't forget, Mega Pokemon sucked before they got revamped. So maybe Dynamax Pokemon will get completely revamped. But yeah, nonetheless, guys, that is the episode. Before you go, if you made this far, thank you for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I do want to say, our Japan trip is officially happening now. So November 9th to 15th, we are confirmed. We have 8 travelers coming to Japan, Osaka and Kyoto with us. However, there is still 14 spots. So if you've wanted to go to Japan, this is the perfect opportunity. I think this is actually the perfect first time in Japan trip, I would say, in my opinion, because you get to travel there. You get to be with Pokemon GO players. So you can obviously trade, raid, do that stuff. But then also, it's a new foreign country, but you'll have people by your side. You'll have a group to relate to have memories with, all that stuff. So if you're interested, link below, check it out. Book your spot now. It is 25%. You only have to put 25% of the price down. I think it's about $750 to confirm your spot. The spots are selling pretty quickly, so definitely go ahead if you've been considering it to go ahead and grab it. And I hope to see you in Japan. I also do want to say that I'm really, really hoping, I'm crossing my fingers, that the Wild Area event is going to be in Japan this year, because it was in November last year. Somebody even told me a rumor that they're going to have a Wild Area in America too this year, so that would be crazy. But if you wanted to go to an in-person event, this could be a perfect opportunity as well, because you can come to our group trip, and then of course you can go ahead and go to the Wild Area event as well. So anyway, if you're interested, go ahead and check that out. Link below. I would love to have you there. Again, it is a trip of a lifetime. If you're wondering whether you want to or not, you can check out my Trova trip page as well and see reviews of the other people who came on the original Japan trip and see how they enjoyed it, because I think everybody enjoyed it. At least I hope everybody enjoyed it, and I'm excited to do this again and have it happen a second time. So yes, excited to go to Japan. Pokemon will be there as well if you're interested. Link below. Thank you guys, as always, this is a weird position, for listening to the YAP session, and we'll be back next Friday with another YAP session. Watch these other 2 videos on screen if you enjoyed this one. And yeah, we'll catch you all next week. I don't know what we're talking about next week. Yeah, maybe Nick's video. Nick went to Kiribati, Christmas Island. I'm making this YAP session way too long, where the spoofers are. So I think this could be a good opportunity for me to talk about my opinion on spoofers and I guess how spoofers fall in 2025. So anyway, see you next week.